Emotionally,
farming's
a passion, so it's very difficult.
In this field, the corn looks golden. It's ready to be harvested,
climate change,
but that's far too soon.
So this is a field of winter barley.
Nationwide UK
normally
crisis, UK 25.
Harvest by earliest late July, usually first or second week in August. The majority of this field is already ready to harvest.
How can you tell?
Times to the bottom. So it's the
things like barley
July
and wheat
today.
Need to be less than 15% moisture.
Sunday morning, guys,
Combine
25.
them and send them to the mills. And if I did a bite test on this, I'd probably already break my teeth because it's probably already 13%. The shame with that is that with it being ready a month earlier, that's a month of yield potential that it hasn't ever fulfilled.
Combs Farm is a fourth-generation family farm. Oliver's parents had the foresight to install irrigation, which does at least reach some of the fields. Other farmers are not as lucky, as Oliver knows as county chairman for the NFU.
Across the UK, this has been the driest spring
100 years.
I think with obviously us now being in the summer and that dry period carrying on, it'll be interesting to see what those figures are like at the end of the year. In the East Midlands specifically, we've actually had it, some of the hardest area in the country. We really have not had the rain.
So what is the impact of this going to be on yields and also on prices for consumers?
It's hard to say at this stage. What sort of effect it's had on the yield. I know it's negative, but I would say on the cereals we could be 25 to 30% down on what we could have achieved in a normal year. Obviously, with there being a reduction in volume, that will have an effect further down the line. So food prices will no doubt be affected.
After our dry
like to go up, basically.
And the hottest of
this
June,
autumn, into the winter.
Farmers are really hoping for some rain now, but some are already contemplating a different future if summers like this become the norm.
Rachel Royce, BBC News.
There you go, guys. And here's the
Talking
farmer.
about this with arable farmer Ollie Harrison, who's here in the studio. Ollie, we've spoken to you many times on the programme before. I think last time you were here, you said you were on course to lose about £250,000 from your business this year.
Yeah.
Has anything happened in the interim that gives you any cause for optimism?
So I think about a month or so after I was last here, we did get a bit of rain, and the last 5 or 6 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, have been pretty decent growing season really now. We've had warm weather, we've had some wet, but that's just in my area. Going further south, it's still as dry as anything.
Yeah.
Going to Cumbria, we're having a great time. The maize is growing.
The 36 months of rain in June locally around Woking.
And the temperature as well, but there's a real.
Basically, canal seems to be full of water at the moment, running flowing, right?
Dry as a chip.
And what does that mean for ultimately for not just for your businesses, but also for stuff in the shops?
Yeah, I mean, yields are down, so we're going to have to start importing again this year, like we had to last year because of the wet weather. I don't think you're going to see a price change in the shops, because I know there's a cost to bringing it in, but because it's a global market, we're kind of used to that. And it's very cheap to move stuff around the world on boats, especially at the moment.
That's a relief.
So that's encouraging at least. However, that doesn't mitigate things for you.
No, it doesn't help farmers at all.
No.
So,
just show me, you brought in 2 different types of barley, I think.
Yeah, so this is kind of what's going on. I don't know whether you can see with the camera, but
Yeah.
on the drier ground, the sandier ground, you've got these really small heads and really stunted crop. If I put it on the table, you might see better.
Yeah.
And then on the heavier ground, it's more clay content where it can hold the moisture a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously grown and it's been able to survive more. So you've got like a bigger head and you've got twice as much straw. So straw's going to be really short this year as well.
And straw is important because that's the bedding that is used for lots of livestock.
Yeah, and also some straw as well.
Horses, goats and chickens.
But the other thing is, if you imagine, it's been so dry in the spring, you've got like these sort of thin, short, stumpy crops. Well, you've got like 3 or 4 tillers, which is stems. Well, in a good year, you'd have maybe 10 tillers. So not only are the crops thin, they're short, and the heads are small, so everything's all combined together to make it an awful harvest.
Last year was an awful harvest, this is an awful harvest.
Last time I spoke to you anyway.
Too much rain last year, too much hot dry weather this
bit. Coloured water and showing you'd had about this much rain and
yeah,
that was what
That's slab problems last year.
I'll do that again. That's what you normally
This year's too much rain, too little rain.
How bad is this year compared with other years?
Well, the sheep knocked my rain gauge over, but luckily my dad still does it old school every morning and has since 1975. And he said that we've had a third the annual rainfall in the first 6 months of this year, our average. So obviously, if we normally have 18 inches, we've had 6. But not only that, 46% of that came in January. So since since February, we've had very little rain whatsoever.
How worried does it make you for predicting the future, I suppose, and knowing what to sow and when to sow?
Well, extremely. I mean, you know, it's ironic.
For gardeners, it's quite frustrating.
We had no yields because we had no sunshine.
Well, the sunflower's flowering too early.
This year, it's the opposite. You know, we have
Too much
what's called
sunlight.
the Sustainable Farming Incentive, which sort of props us up and insulates us a bit from these extremes. But of course, I was lucky to get on the scheme, but lots of farmers couldn't, and it was now closed, and it will not open again until next January. So that's a worry for a lot. Again, I've said in the past, I've got quite a bit of diversification. So, you know, the holiday let's doing okay. There's been really nice weather, but equally, like, how long do you take that money from the diversification just to prop up the farm? When if you were an accountant, you just look at it and say, why are you farming? It's just not adding up.
And it's interesting that point you make. There's Jeremy Clarkson has won plaudits, I know, with the farming community for the series that he's done on his farm, but he's been able to diversify quite successfully with lots of other things like farm shops and everything else. I mean, are farmers easily able to diversify, and is that what you want to do anyway?
Well, not really. We like growing things or raising animals. I'm urban fringe. I'm only 25 minutes from here, half an hour from Manchester, 25 minutes from the middle of Liverpool. My holiday let and my dog walking fields do really well because there's population. But if you're on the top of a hillside in the middle of nowhere, unless you can get planning permission for a holiday let or something like that, what you're going to do. But why should farms that produce food for the UK to eat have to do something else and then put our food security at risk? And I know we can import it, but that's okay when everything's okay in the world.
Food security is a crucial point, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you go back to the Second World War, they didn't need to invade us. All they had to do was cut our food off. Our food supply, the boats coming in, and with what's sort of been going on in the Middle East and boats moving around, and I think they disrupted the signals to their GPS 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, you get a bit of that, and stuff starts to not arrive in time. It's very dangerous. We also have huge natural resources. Generally, it doesn't normally rain here. We get some sunshine.
Yeah, the problem is though, the population in England is huge, mate.
We can generally grow.
The population of the whole UK is massive.
Government should really
couldn't make
invest
enough
in
food for everyone.
Because then, if we have a surplus, then we can export it, and then it's
Or could we?
in the pot again, isn't it?
Thanks for coming in, as always. Fingers crossed for
There you go.
the harvesting as well. Ollie Harrison.
This is Sean Sanger. That's your climate change farming for you.
It's 8:30.